natural to everyone to enjoy success and absolutely fear and dread the lower end of football. So I wanted to just say, my name's Warren Eastham, 55 years old, father to two boys, one 16, one 13, no airs and graces. I say it as it is. I try to be as transparent and as fair as I can be. I've one mouth and two ears. I use them in that way. I prefer to listen and understand what you guys want, and if it's viable, we'll try and put it into action, and if it isn't, I'll try and explain why we can't. For those of you who've had the opportunity to speak with me, I hope that's come all loud and clear. And for those of you tonight, I can promise you that is exactly how it is. These 4 badges that you see on this screen are really important. Because for a long, long time, Accrington Stanley has been taken advantage of because the name is so synonymous around the world. People think they can have the little piece of Accrington Stanley, whether it be a sticker in a book or a poster on the wall that's been done without permission. These 4 brands are ours and yours, and it's important that they stay like they are. If I was to say to you this year the brand was registered under Accrington Stanley, this year it was registered. Not years and years ago like the club, but this year. If I told you that the domain for our emails had to buy it back off a customer, you'd think I'm mad, wouldn't you? That had to happen this year. So I'm telling you things here about where this new direction is going. This is the legal entity for Accrington Stanley. The 4 entities that you will see more and more, and you have my word, anything outside of this will not be happening again. You'll see out there the Community Trust. If you've been down to the Community Trust, fabulous venue. It's where we train. We're very proud of it. And Martin Fearon and his team down there do a fabulous job. The women's team. You're probably asking why the women's team are on there. The women's team are on a service level agreement with Accrington Stanley. They've done a remarkable job in getting to where they are. They wear the brand with pride, right down to the junior ages. They've done had a remarkable season, and if it wasn't for Bolton Wanderers this year, would have got promoted. But unfortunately, the Bolton and the professional element of what they have means that we didn't quite make it. But they deserve to be on this wall because they are how they represent the brand. If we had the finances to bring them under the banner and within the club, we probably would. But it's a very expensive pastime. So I just want to make that clear. They are very much part of the club. We're in dialogue with them all the time. And Sammy Smithson, who looks after them, does a fabulous job. The Supporters Trust. What would we do without you? You guys, the fans and the Supporters Trust, are the mainstay of the club. We hope that they can represent you in the right manner. We have 1 or 2 people, I think, in here today from the Supporters Trust, and it's really important we get behind them because they're the voice. They're the people who come into the club and tell us what it is that you want. And they've also done fabulous work where they help finance things for the club that we ordinarily can't afford. If you think around the ground, I've only been here about 7 months, and I find out that the scoreboard was done by them, various other upgrades around the ground was done by them. And I think they're a remarkable thing to have, and we need to make sure that we keep them going and we keep young and exciting people going into that group to make sure the ideas are new. So moving on, this slide is something I think you can all understand a little bit about. Everyone in this room will be touched by this in some way. The brand means a lot to me, it means a lot to you. Our people, that's you. It definitely is you. And the many that come here at weekends. Our past, a lot of you will have grandparents, great-granddads, uncles, aunties, people who are no longer here, and you followed in their footsteps. Our future, our children, they're the future of this club. They're the kids in school who go and visit. They're the ones who want to see down here with Stanley running around the ground, waving the flags. That's what we want to see. But our legacy is what we leave behind for the next generations to enjoy. So, our panel today, obviously myself, as I've just introduced. We've got Martin Feary, who's going to tell you a little bit about the Community Trust, and also we've got Chris Huff, who's our Academy Manager. He's going to tell you a little bit about the development of our Academy and where we currently are and how that's going to feed the first team in the future. This is the agenda. If anyone's seen it online, we're just going to go through some of these things. I'm not going to bore you with too much of the commercial things, but because obviously some of you will have questions about, a lot of it will be about the football team and about what questions you want answering around this year's performances, etc. Well, there's some interesting things in here for you. And I will tell you, later on today, you are going to be the first people to see the new home kit for next year. So, financial update. We hear a lot about Accrington Stanley and the debts that we seem to run up year after year. We're consistently bang on out with no money and it's hard. This year we've done remarkably well. When I say remarkably well, we'll probably finish the year end just over break even. And for a club at the lower end of Division 2 this year, that's pretty remarkable. But that's down to hard work, dedication, budgeting correctly, managing things properly, and making sure that we get the right results. If you think the year before we lost 1.4 million, some of the numbers that I'll share with you later on, people like Fleetwood losing 9 million. If you look at Morecambe losing 1.4 million, and that's not including debts all to their owners who are already trying to run away. So if you think about what we've done this year financially, we've done very well. Liverpool, yeah, it was a great success. We probably made 550,000 at Liverpool, and well supported. It was a great day. We all enjoyed it, and it's helped us balance the books. But I will say to you, breaking even doesn't mean there's no money for next year. One of the good things is we are definitely going to invest and make sure we go into next year and push higher. Commercially, I have a bit of a confession. I think my online store stinks. I didn't do very well with that this year. A lot of it is down to resource and also learning about Macron and their capabilities online. So the idea was, with the resource that we have, to outsource it to someone who would take a percentage of sales on the web shop. But what you can't guarantee is how they're going to run the web shop. And Macron don't have the variation of stock that we would like to have that appeals to the fans. So for me, I apologise for that. And over the summer, we will be looking at trying to bring out an online store that gives you what you want, and gives you variation, and gives you some products that you want to see. Also, you've seen some successes. Our hospitality, we saw a rating, I'm not over sure where it came from, that we were the 12th best club in the Football League, above many Premiership clubs. At 59 quid, we're now in full rooms of nearly 190, 200. We've also started selling out the gallery, and there also is a view to doing a fans version where it's more of a burger and chips, and if anyone who had the burger and chips the other day down in the gallery, you'll see it's not just burger and chips, it's quality food. So we are on about doing something like that in Corley's as well. But commercially, that's made a big difference, and it's certainly made an impact on our bottom line over the last season. We've been well supported at the kiosks. The kiosks have been fantastic on match days, so thank you very much for your efforts on there. All those who come down and share a beer and have a chat. And we've also done very well in other areas in sponsorship, and you'll be glad to see later on that we've secured some decent sponsorship that will see us nicely into the new year. The infrastructure facilities, if you look around the ground, other than the away end, which I know many of you won't really care about, it's in a bit of a state is the away end. I'm glad that I'm not stood on that stand at the moment. We're going to make sure that we give it an upgrade shortly as we get into the summer. It certainly needs some attention around the toilets and around the bar areas. So other than that, I think the ground is in pretty good condition. We will be looking to put some ideas out to fans that might be able to give us a day if they've got certain trade skills, then they might give us a day. There's certain areas just need touching up, which might save us some money, like turnstiles and things like that. You might need a lick of paint, but we'll put something out later in the summer. So moving on to fan engagement and match day experience. Over recent weeks, you'll have seen a bit of an improvement in what we've been trying to do. I've listened to a lot of fans saying, you know, we need to get tickets, we need to get the fans, you know, more fans in, we need to do this, we need to do that. Well, it's very difficult sometimes to pick the right options on those. What we can do is we can certainly start listening and get young fans engaged on the field around the ground. If you've seen recently, we've introduced 20 new flag bearers around the ground, which is, you know, it certainly gives a bit more of appeal. And those for the Clayton, it adds to what fantastic appeal they give, because there's no stand like that within the Football League. We are looking next year at things that will reward people for loyalty, so like loyalty cards. So if you do buy a certain amount of drinks and you get your loyalty card stamped, you get the next one for free. Which means, you know, it gives you a little bit back. It doesn't hurt us financially, which I'll explain a little bit further on of you know why we have to do things in a certain way. But it certainly gives something. New food stalls, we're looking to add different types of food at different times. So maybe a curry stall, maybe a pizza stall, could be, you know, and I'm open to ideas on this, or you know, on social media, various different types of food that we can put on a match day that just adds something different. We've been asked about having hats and scarves and various merchandise on sale in the ground, and making sure that, you know, everyone has the opportunity to purchase without having to go up to the shop. That's something we're certainly looking at. I've recently been asked by Andrew and the Clayton end about a drum cage. For a number of reasons. The drum makes the atmosphere, it's the heartbeat of the club for most of us. I'm sure there's one or two who might not agree if you stood there, but it is for me. And it needs to be safe and secure, and it needs to give him a space where he can play the drum without fear of being crushed if and when we score. We're going to be looking at the stadium announcer next year, having a more proactive approach for the stadium announcer. The stadium announcer needs to be the voice of you know, before and during half time and after the game. They need to be a part of it. They create the atmosphere. They need to be on the field making sure that the activity's on there, everyone's aware of what's going on. And if we couple that then with a scoreboard that actually does what it's supposed to do, we might be able to see what's happening as well. So we are working hard to make sure that those things happen for next season. We're putting together a kids fan zone. So at the back of the family stand, we've already looked at various equipment that we can put at the back of the family stand where kids can go and play, and we can make sure they've got the opportunity to go and do something before the game while parents can have a beer or have a chat. Half time, you've already seen some of the things we're doing at half time. The mascot, we've actually seen him for the duration of the game now. He's actually doing his rounds, so we're going to put another one with him. So Win Stanley is going to get Win Stanley Jr. So Win Stanley Jr. is just going to help him and make sure that we're engaged at all times around the ground with the children that are here. Also, when we're not on match day, visiting schools, making sure that we do things in the right manner and representing Accrington Stanley in a warm and welcoming way. We've changed some of the music this weekend. So listening again to what fans have said, Myla is one of the artists well renowned around here. Speaking to him and speaking to other people. Milltown Boy, if you heard played this week. Andy Holt thought it was a melody, but I know it's well known around here. I was asked to get that played, and we also increased the intro to Seven Nation Army, which is our walk-on song, to make sure we've got a longer intro for the lads to cheer along to. Next season we're looking at Guest of the Week, where we can bring some of the legends back and introduce them to do maybe a half-time draw, introduce them to the crowd, and then get them to come into hospitality lounges and callers afterwards where fans can meet players of the past, and so on and so on. This happens at other grounds. This is not something that is new just to Accrington, and it should be happening here. The new screen that I was talking about was working in conjunction, hopefully, with Media Village. We've just got to sign the deal and make sure we secure the finance. They've also given us free use of their sign, which you've seen if you go through Eastham, which means we get the free advertising on there as well. Match events. So I know, working with Damien and whatever, the charity events that we put on the ground are really important. So we're thinking of a community day, working with the community trust, where for one game only, we changed the fronts of the shirt from one to the community day, and the money goes back into the community for people who need it. There's also the potential of a Legends Day, where basically there's a certain amount of legends who are still capable of playing, that could come back, and then we auction the opportunity for fans to go and play amongst the legends on the field and make a real day of it. So then just a flavour of some of the things that we've been thinking about. Some of them are already happening, and I'm proud to say that it has been well received by a lot of the fans. Volunteer groups, an unusual one because we are very low on resource at the football club. We keep resource to a minimum, obviously to reduce cost. And when we really need help, it's difficult sometimes with the low numbers of staff we have. So I'd like to put together a volunteer group from the fans where we perhaps reward fans with season tickets for a level of voluntary work before a game, and at half time it may be that of the 23 games that we play in a season, if they will kindly help us over 18 of those, it might be looking after the kids' zone or just helping put the flags out for the kids, that helps, and we reward them with a season ticket for the season. Next, I'm just going to hand you on to Martin Fearon, who runs our community trust. Well established now, and doing great things. There's some great ambassadors just come on board, so I'll just hand you on to Martin, and then we'll carry on.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just introduce myself, Luke. My name is Martin Fearon. I'm the CEO of Accrington Stanley Community Trust. So I'm just going to cover 4 areas over the next 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm going to go into a bit about my background, who I am, the rise of Accrington Stanley Community Trust, the impact we're having in the community, and also the importance of the Community Trust to the football club. So just talking about my background, some of you may know, some of you may not. I've actually been at the football club for 20 years now, 20 years in January. So I started as a young lad playing football for Burnley in the academy. I was there for 8 years. I was in the same team as Jay Rodriguez, growing up all the way up until 16. Unfortunately, I didn't get a contract. I went to Accrington Stanley, I'm from the area, and I started playing in the reserve team at 16 years old. From that, I signed a 2-year youth team contract. It was the first time Accrington Stanley had put a full-time youth team programme in place. And I was actually the first player to be offered a full-time professional contract for Accrington Stanley 20 years ago. And I was a professional footballer for the club from 2005 to 2008. I was a member of the promotion-winning 2006 Conference League title at the time, now National League. So I was a member of that squad. And then the first 2 seasons in League 2, I was named as a substitute 25 times. Unfortunately, never made my league debut, but I played in a number of friendlies for the football club, played in Lancashire Cup games and a lot of reserve games as well. In 2008, I transitioned from full-time football into what is now the Community Trust. And then at the same time, I had another 12 years playing semi-pro football. I played over 500 games for various clubs, Chester, Marine, Lancaster City. So I was working full-time in the Community Trust, but still playing football semi-professionally as well. So, Accrington Stanley Community Trust. So we're the official charity of Accrington Stanley Football Club. So every professional football club has their own foundation or charity. So we represent Accrington Stanley. We were founded in 2007, initially as a department of the football club. So that was called Football in the Community at the time. In 2010, we formed as a standalone charity. That was the way all the community programmes were heading, because you could look at applying for funding and they could go from, as you can see there, we had a £90,000 turnover in the first year and 2 members of staff to where we are today. So on the top right, that was our first office at the football stadium, an £800 porter cabin. In a much better place at the minute, but we did spend a good few years in there. So if we fast forward to 2015, we'd expanded the charity to 8 members of staff, a turnover of just under £400,000, and that was our first £1 million that we'd raised in total, so 5 years in as a charity. If we head to 2020, we developed the first phase of Stanley Sports Hub, which if you haven't seen it, it's over on Thorney Road. Come and speak to me, I'll take you around and show you the facilities, they're really good. So that was 2020, we developed the £2 million initially. We had 20 staff and a turnover of 1.2 million, so it started to become a big operation now. We head to 2024, so we further developed the facilities. £4 million we've spent in total. We've got a turnover of 1.6 million and we're up close to 50 members of staff now. And the first team, the academy teams and the under-18s all train at the facility, as well as the community, grassroots and different community groups. So if we look at our community impact, I've put a graphic on the display there. I'll just talk through some of the work that we do. So we deliver over 30 community programmes and we engage with over 20,000 people every year. So we've got 4 key areas that we work in. We've got sport participation, which is more your coaching in schools, your holiday camps, development centres, anything to do with sport. And it's not about how talented someone is, it's more about taking part and increasing activity levels. We've got education, so many of you will know we run a full-time college programme, so we do offer accredited qualifications for school leavers. We've got 90 full-time students. We run BTEC courses, which are the equivalent to A-levels, and we also do degree programmes as well. So we're partnered with the University of South Wales in Cardiff, which is an EFL's university partner. So we've got about 20 students that are studying the university degree with us. We employ 7 full-time teachers. So we do the same sort of courses that you can do at Accrington College, Blackburn College and other colleges. We've got health and wellbeing. So we do a lot of work around mental health, going into schools, working with people that are struggling, also adults as well. Some of you may have seen we've started a new cancer prehab programme. So we've received funding from the NHS to work with people that have been diagnosed with cancer, to do some rehabilitation work with them before they go through chemotherapy. And then we've got community engagement, which is the work we do with underrepresented groups. So disabled children and adults, refugees, anyone that's classed as an underrepresented group, we'll go and do various different projects with them. So the importance of the community trust to the football club, I've put a few points up there. So we take the football club into the community 365 days a year. So we make sure, in terms of brand awareness, all our staff have all got the Accrington Stanley uniform. We're in the schools. We're seeing over 20,000 people every year, delivering 30 different programmes. So we're taking that brand into the community every day. Now from that, it should create more lifelong supporters. So it's more of a long-term plan. It doesn't happen overnight, but the work we're doing now in the schools should come to fruition later on, and we start seeing the fan base grow over time. It also increases the club's reputation in the community. So all the positive work that we're doing with various different groups, that's creating some good reputation for the football club and all the brands within it. If we go on to funding, so we're a registered charity, so we can apply for various grants for infrastructure, facilities, staffing, programmes. The football club can't apply for grants because it's a private limited company. We can, so that's where we can add the added value and secure quite some substantial grants that we can bring into Accrington to deliver a number of different community programmes. I've mentioned education, so we have a full-time college programme, and the people that are studying with us are potentially our future workforce. We've had a number of people that have come to us at 16, they've studied with us 2 years on a BTEC course, 3 years on a degree programme, and now they're working full-time for us. In the football college, we've also had a couple of players that have come to us from grassroots football, never been in the academy system, and they've actually excelled, and 2 have since been offered a professional contract for the football club as well. If we go on to facilities, so we've got the £4 million Stanley Sports Hub. The first team train there during the day, as do the under-18s. The academy train there in the evenings. You've got grassroots teams. But in terms of the value added for the football club, if we look at it from this angle, if we're looking to attract players at academy level or maybe first team players, and they've got 2 or 3 different options, they will look at the whole infrastructure, they'll look at the stadium, but they'll also want to look at where they're training every day. Now, beforehand, we didn't have a training ground. The first team training at Highland Leisure Centre on a 3G pitch. That would put a lot of professional players off if they had a choice. So we think now having this facility also brings an added value to the first team in attracting players as well as the academy. And then the final one on this is future-proofing the club. So the work we're doing in the schools, in the community, day in, day out, is creating that generational loyalty with new supporters in particular children, which when they grow up and have their own families, they should then stay within the Stanley family, rather than being a Burnley fan or a Blackburn fan, which is generational, which a lot of us will understand, being either side of Burnley and Blackburn. So we've been having to grow our fan base from the children up, because people had already chosen their allegiances. So that's what our work's all about, creating that next generation of supporters as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I think that gives a really good flavour of, where we are from a club perspective, outside of what you actually see in the ground. A lot of what Accrington Stanley is you don't see. A lot of this is very quiet during the week, but it's certainly not quiet down where Martin is and his team are. And it's a very professionally run space, and I know from a fact, I've been down there many times myself. It's a treat for some of these young lads to come and train on week in, week out. So we're going to move on to team and management. Pretty sure a lot of you want to hear about this bit. So, coaching staff. There were a few changes this year. Obviously, the goalkeeping coach, those of you know Andy Dibble, who was our goalkeeping coach this year, had a very serious knee condition from an injury a long time ago, and unfortunately it forced him into quite a severe operation, which he's still recovering from. Happily, we managed to secure the service of Carl Nash, who's been a fabulous addition to the coaching squad. And if you see him out on match days, the way he strikes the ball sometimes, I think I put him up front. He's a great lad, but a good addition. We also lost Mick Rathbone as the club physio, and we replaced Mick with a young fella, life and soul of the party, but a great lad, a great addition to the club, Michael John Adonarian, as first team physio. He's currently going through, his probationary periods, and we're making sure that he fits the bill and fits in the team, which we certainly does. From the offset, he looks like he's going to be a great addition. And there's even rumours of how we might develop the medical team and bring him up to head of medical should the opportunity arise. Lee Camp, who was the professional development phase lead coach for the academies, moved up to the first team to help out with the first team. And again, a fabulous lad. He speaks well. Very knowledgeable. He's a great asset to the managers and helping them out. When you think our managers actually coach the team as well on the grass, they actually take training themselves, which a lot of clubs don't. They have the coaching teams doing that while the managers tell them what to do. Ours actually don't. So it's nice to have an extra guy out there, and Lee certainly is a welcome help. So moving on to some of the players. Obviously, year on year, we take on more players. This year, sadly, we're going to be saying goodbye to a few. Jake Batty, which I think you'll all agree this year has been a fabulous player. He's, tenacious, wants to win, really gets stuck in. And I'd say, a standout performer for us this year. Billy Crellin, Sonny O'Joffrey, and Joe Brian Whitmarsh will all be going back to their clubs at the end of the season. So we'll be looking to recruit again in the loan market. Some real positives. I think anyone who's seen Devon Matthews play will say he's one for the future, a real asset to the club. We actually brought him in thinking he may be one for next season, and he dropped in first game and he's never left. The guy that really puts the effort in, and I'm sure you'll all agree, a great asset. Tyler Walton continues to impress, often ploughing along for up there for us, but again, physical, tough, quick, and I'm sure with a bit of assistance up there, he'll start bringing a few more goals in next season. Kelsey Mooney and Faz Rawson, you know, again, great players, and I'm sure next year we'll see even more from these four. Talking with Andy before I came out tonight, we're already looking at 7 potential players to come and join us next year in different capacities. If the right player comes along, we will sign them. If it's a loan, we will get clubs all over Southampton or all over us. There's plenty of clubs now looking to work with Accrington Stanley now and starting to learn about the facilities we have, how we treat the players, and the opportunities we give them. So you know, the future's bright as far as club players coming into the club. There's a meeting next week to discuss player contracts. We have delayed it slightly given the current league positions. Obviously what we don't want to do is distract anyone from what's happening at the weekend. It's very important we get over the line. Like you would like to think now that the goal difference situation is a good one, and that's you know, we're going to make sure we do get over the line. But we never say never, and I'm never one to tempt fate. So we've delayed the meeting till next week, and we'll be having discussions then about all players, all loans, and so on and so on. The youth development situation, I'm going to pass it now to Chris Huff. Chris heads up our academy. Obviously what we're trying to achieve is you know, a top-down, bottom-up approach where, you know, kids from our academy eventually feed our football team. It's relatively new in terms of academy. So, you know, there's great things happening there. So I'll just hand you over to Chris.
Evening. I've not been to one of these before. I believe a couple of you may have been at what we did earlier in the season, probably October, November time, something like that. So if you haven't met me at that talk, it's the first time. So nice to put kind of a face to the name. I think the big thing for me, kind of reflecting on this season, has been, it's obviously been a huge period of transition across the football club, particularly across the academy programme, where we've had a vast amount of staff turnover, due to all the really good work that's gone on over the past number of years, really. So I'm sure you've all met Duncan Fernan in the past at these sorts of events, and have heard him talk probably a little bit more eloquently than me, and kind of heard more about the programme and what we do and why we do it in the past. Obviously Duncan moved on prior to Christmas to Southampton Football Club. It was a really good move for him. And we then kind of moved on towards a period of transition, and a number of new members of staff come in. I was ultimately made academy manager. So my background has been here for the last 6 years. So I started off as a part-time age group coach, working with the foundation phase players, eventually moving into the YDP, and then a full-time role in operations, where I essentially assisted Duncan with the day-to-day running of the academy, the management of staff and the players. So it was kind of really well versed in how the football club run, how the academy run, and was kind of great to make that next step. In terms of that transition, it wasn't just Duncan that moved on earlier this season. We also had Stuart Jones, who was our foundation phase league coach. So the foundation phase is the under 8s to the under 12s. So the youngest boys in the programme, who moved on to Ipswich Town, who were a Category 1 Premier League Academy. We also had Ben King, who was our head of coaching, moved on to Sheffield Wednesday in the first team role, to become one of their coaches. James Wignall, who was our head of medical in the academy, moved to Crew Alex for a first team role. And then his replacement, John Adair, moved to our own first team. So we had 5 members of staff quickly quite turn over. which was a really challenging period of time for the football club. However, I think it was a massive accomplishment for the staff, full-time and part-time, to ensure the programme ran as normal. We kept producing high-quality sessions, we kept producing high-quality challenge and support for the boys on and off the pitch, which was a massive credit to the staff. I am really glad to say, coming off the back of that period into January time, we are now fully staffed. We're up to 11 members of staff, which is the most amount of staff the Academy's ever had. Throughout my time at the football club, we've had somewhere between 5 and 9 members of staff. So being able to have 11 members of staff now is really maximising the impact we can have on and off the pitch. Martin mentioned earlier about when the Community Trust was started a few years ago. You were based out of an £800 porta cabin, but we were based out of a £400 porta cabin, I think. So I think the transition and the development we've had over the last 5-6 years since I've been in the football club, in terms of the infrastructure, has been absolutely huge. I also think the development of the staff and the players and the quality of the players has also been massive. So really proud to have seen that development over the last 5 years and obviously been able to play a big part in that. This season, like I said, has been challenging, but it's also been really successful. As I've just mentioned, the quality of the players is increasing year on year, and as Martin touched upon, that's no doubt due to the facilities and the infrastructure that the club is lucky to have, partly down to, mainly down to Accrington Stanley Community Trust over at Stanley Sports Club, which is only ever kind of growing and increasing the reputation of the football academy. This season, our under-9s were named third in the EFL National Championships. Slightly bitter, we probably should have won the game, but Cardiff City's goalkeeper in the semi-final was unbelievable, and we probably had about 50 shots on target, just couldn't score. So from a development point of view, we're taking steps in the right direction. Our under-13s were named national champions of the EFL, so those two competitions were kind of inaugural competitions across age groups, which will be rolled out across the board next season from 9s to 15s. So the two inaugural competitions across the whole of the EFL, not including the Premier League clubs. We finished third for the under-9s and first for the under-13s, which I think if you'd asked me that 4 or 5 years ago where we'd come, I'd probably say somewhere in the 50s or the 60s. So again, demonstrating the progress we've made. Across the whole programme, we have approximately 100 players, which includes the under-9s all the way through to the under-18s. And we obviously currently have 10 professional players which take part in the first team squad. Obviously, Warren's mentioned a meeting coming up. Hopefully, in the next week or two, we'll be able to announce more players which are stepping into the first team squad, which I'm sure we'll be able to put across at some point soon. I think the big thing for me, just linking to Warren's point around club ambition, is just to kind of reiterate the purpose of the football academy. Our aim is to be the top Cat 3 academy in the country, which, given those results and performances which I've just mentioned, I think we are heading in that direction, and that means on the pitch and off the pitch. So categories, academies are categorised 1 to 4 for those of you that don't know. Essentially, the Cat 1 clubs are the Premier League clubs who have the most money, the most staff, and the most facilities, which is kind of obvious. The Cat 2 clubs are generally the Championship clubs that have been in the past in the Premier League, who are still receiving parachute payments, have more money, more staff, and facilities because of their time in the Premier League. And then generally, the Cat 3 clubs like ourselves are League 1 clubs and League 2 clubs. There are Category 3 academies, which essentially just run under 18s programs, so they don't have the 9s to 16s like we do. So we want to be the top Cat 3 academy in the country. From a facilities point of view, those of you that have been to the hub, I can say without doubt we have the best facilities of any Cat 3 academy in the country. From a staffing point of view, the additions we've made over the last year, I think, take us really close. I mean, the quality of the staff we've got, pound for pound, would be right up there. I've been really pleased with the members of staff that we have been able to recruit and bring in to replace the top quality members of staff that have left in recent years. There's been 19 members of staff that I've got to know over the last 5 years who have moved on to Category 1 clubs, to Premier League clubs, or to Championship first teams, as well as into our own first team, Conor Lloyd, Chris Scholes, John Aberdarian, Jed Brannan, all being former members of the academy staff stepping into our own first team. So again, I think that highlights that whilst we're here to develop football players, we've done an incredibly good job at developing staff who have moved on to do some really good work at other clubs. So just finally for me, I want to emphasise that academy ambition of us being the top Cat 3 and make clear that the academy is there to support sustainable football club and producing football players who go on and play significant minutes in the first team environment, so the club doesn't have to go out and loan players from Premier League clubs, or doesn't have to go out and purchase players for X amount of money because we have the quality within the football club. And I'm sure you can probably all agree that you'd much rather a boy from Accrington play for Accrington Stanley than a boy for Southampton, for example. Thank you very much. I'll be around all night. If you want to have a chat, come grab me.
Thanks, Chris. Just going back to the club ambition, I think it's well worth saying, you know, there's since I come to the club, there's a lot of things have been said, such as, you know, with a club that didn't die, with a club that won't die, you know, we just need to make sure we stay up. These are things that I can understand, but I don't think for next season are acceptable by any standard. We have to start to be the club that looks upwards. We have to look at putting the stepping stones, the processes and procedures in place to make sure that next season, the season after, and the season after that, show success and show that we are putting the right things in the right places, the right people in the right places. No more round pegs in square holes. We're going to make sure we do things properly. If we said that we were going to consolidate in mid-table next year, it's not just a case of saying it. It's about understanding how we're going to get there. What is the plan? Because if the outcomes aren't happening early enough, all you can refer to is the plan. And if the plan isn't happening, then we've got something wrong. But if you don't have a plan and you're not getting the outcomes, we are where we are. So there's a lot of effort this year in making sure that if we're going to put a name to an outcome, there's a plan that absolutely maps out how we're going to get there. And how every member of the team, from the directors to the management, understand fully that we have to try and adhere to that plan. There are certain circumstances, player sales and things like that can affect that plan. But you have to understand what you're going to do about it when it happens. So you have my word. One of the big things that I'll be pushing for next season is that plan. No one's going to give me a falsehood of let's go and get promotion if they're not going to tell me how they're going to get there. Because it's just pointless. It's just words. We need to know there's a plan, and I'm sure that you guys will want the confidence to know that that sort of planning is happening in your football club, and that is exactly what we're hoping to put in. So the ambition for 2025, I'm hoping it's halfway or above, and we'll put a plan there to get there, and that then produces the stepping stone for future seasons. But we have to start putting these things in place, and I hope we'll do that.
Sorry, Ron, can I just ask, will we privy to the plan? Because for a number of years we've heard about a plan, a 5-year plan.
It's something that
it is at all.
the plan is something that you have to have as a business plan. There's an element of it we can share, and I think the best thing to say is, can we tell you are we on that journey, are we looking at it? Yes, we can tell you, but it's very much like a working contract for employees. So you wouldn't really want to share someone else's contract, but you would know how the outcomes are going by the noise that's coming from the club. Because the one thing I'm just not going to be happy with is someone says, we're on the lowest budget. You know, we're not Accrington Stanley. Who's going to come to Accrington Stanley? that doesn't wash. It's just, if we set the standard so low, what's below low? So we have to set the bar high. Even if we don't ultimately believe, you know, the highest high is acceptable, set it somewhere where we know we can get to. But the plan has to be in place for everybody. And if that's financial planning, if that's team planning, if it's playing philosophy, if it's whatever we need to put in place that's agreed with the management, then we follow the plan. If the outcome works, if we're winning every week, sometimes you might not look at that plan. You might look at it and go, do you know what? We've got a bit of goal going on here. It's really good. But what happens if we lose 5 of the first games next season? And I'm sure you all ask yourselves that question. We have to look at the plan. Because that's what we're going to agree on in the next few weeks. What is the plan? Because we can't have a circumstance like this year. Is that okay? Right, moving on. So I'll keep this quick, because I'm sure you don't need to know about safety and things, but just to let you know again, the ground, we've had a couple of safety audits, and the stadium safety measures audit came back again seamlessly. We've got a great little stadium, a few niggles here and there which you would expect, but generally around the ground it's very safe for you guys to be in. There was nothing highlighted that's a problem. And when it is, one of the things we do pride ourselves on at Accrington Stanley, we don't blodge it, we fix it. And we fix it as it was made. And we don't start messing around, unless it's over there, they're not over there. But for us guys, we make sure that we do it right. I'm only joking, by the way, we do look after them.
Warren, can I ask a question on the aspect of safety? Are you aware that all tickets can be used to get into fresh matches? Because my mate came the other week, we've got a ticket to the ticket office, we sit in the Stanley, we've gone into his pocket, got the Gillingham ticket out, gave it in, bleeped it, that was against Fleetwood.
Answer to your question, I didn't, but I certainly will be asking the question. Obviously, we have it's a difficult situation with what we have in the staff down the ground, because the ticketing system has traditionally run for a lot more. And they've had to do that due to, for financial reasons and cost reasons. So a lot of the things that we see that happen on ticketing aren't under the umbrella of the club. There's a lot I'm bringing back to the club to make sure that we manage it, because obviously a self-sufficient club is a more successful club. But I'm glad you brought that up, and I will catch up with you afterwards if you don't mind, and we can just we can share that, and I'll make sure I take that away and deal with it. And thank you very much for bringing that up. We also had we had our other audit from the EFL, and at the EFL, when we got the results back, we passed with an 85.2% success rate on our safety audit, which again is a credit to the club. And there's nothing but from everything that's off the pitch, I think you'll all agree, things are going swimmingly. We could do with some more numbers around the ground in fans, but from a safety perspective and in other areas, we're doing very, very well. While I ask the room, is there anything that you would like to comment on the safety around the ground, where you feel vulnerable, where you feel there might be something? I mean, the drum cage was one that you would never even think about. And Andrew Watson fetched it up to me and said, when we score, we get crushed. It's a simple rectification. But if you're in an environment like that, will you feel at risk? Please let me know. And just make it known to us, please. Right, so I mentioned earlier about the online shop. Definitely needs looking at. And I want it to be far more than what it ever is. It's been a difficult year as regards looking after what's going on with this stand, which I'll touch on afterwards. It was going to be my baby when I first came to have a look at it and thought, right, that's one thing we really need to do. But again, the support for Macron hasn't been the greatest, so we will move on and get that right. So we'll move on to the next slide. This is a good one for you. Who's on ours, or who's on ours, or do we like it? I can see a few nods around.
How long have we tied into Macron for?
With another 2 years. That's the reason we've had to go with Macron. I've had various manufacturers come to us.
Next question. Do we get a new strip after the season after?
I understand his revenue is very difficult at the moment for the club as well, because obviously, although we've got loyal fans, we haven't got a huge amount. And I know you guys spend as much money as you can on the club and you do the very best for us. We have to drive revenue streams from somewhere. We are only allowed to spend 50% of our revenue on player salaries. So our revenue is very low, if you think about it in commercial terms. And if you can only spend 50% of your revenue on player salaries, it doesn't bear well for players, bringing in new players. So we have to drive some, and we try to keep it the best we can. We're really changing one of the shirts. We're trying to look at new revenue streams. I will come back to it. So we are trying to drive new revenue streams, and this is one that we do rely on year. And I know it's expensive, but other clubs tend to do it. They'll change, or home kits or away kit. Not my glasses.
Is there going to be a printing capability there?
Sorry?
Is there going to be a printing capability? Is that coming to the club? A printing, like literally names on the back and stuff like that. Is that going to be from next season as well?
We can get, you'll be able to get the print names and numbers here as we use it, we'll be able to do. So we can do whatever you need on the back of the shirts, it'll be exactly the same. So it won't be pre-printed, like what they call it now. But it's, you can put names and numbers of whatever players you want on, or if you were doing it for your own club or your own team. We can do that for you. At the moment, we're not going to change the other kits. It's a tough one because when we first went to work with Macron, we had our own designs which were really bespoke. We got into it really early, but they take so much time to get the kits because we don't want to just do the kits. We do our kits, we do the academy, we do the ladies, we do the shirt giveaways. There's a fair old number of kits.
Right, just an idea. You bring the new kit out. Could you do something like a family package? Because we're on about trying to bring the young ones through. So when the adults come to the game with the wives or whatever, you could do the wives, the dads, and then the kids. So you might have 4 people that are buying brand new kits. So if they're buying the package together, is there something we could incorporate? So say you're bringing your kids to the game, you can get a full package for X amount of money rather
That's a consideration. One of the things about these fan forums isn't just us talking to you. Like I said before, 1 1/2 years, I'm here to listen. And I know for a fact that there's people in this room that come up with ideas and they're already in action. And if it fits and it does well for us, and it contributes a better environmental, revenue return for us by just being more affordable or whatever it is that we can do. Because if we sell more than what we were selling before and that contributes more revenue, then that works. And I'm happy with that. I can definitely do something with that.
I just don't think any other club's done it where, it's a family thing and you're bringing the kids into it then. You start them young and they're wearing the Stanley badge.
It's a good idea. And when we close the meeting this evening, there'll be an opportunity for everyone to put their ideas onto the club. And you know what we'll do, we'll certainly reply to everybody who puts something forward that's you know, sensible, and we'll make sure that you know we consider everything.
That's over my age. Is that the red bit when it's the white? Is it symbolic of anything, like the soldiers and all that?
No, this is the problem with Macron. If anything we wanted that were bespoke, that was in the actual print retail, we couldn't get out at this time, because we did look at things like the Aki breaking and things like that. They sent us, I think it was 8 different versions, and some you just wouldn't have, but we're tied into it. To be fair, you know, they do us a good deal, a financial deal, but because they have so many clubs now, I think there's 13 clubs in the EFL. It's quite a big, you know, big agency term really. You know, we're learning. You know, it's I've only just come in to start dealing with Macron, even the shirt deals and the shirt designs. You know, a lot of that was being done up at one.
What I've got to say is credit where credit's due. The shirt designs, whether you love them or hate them, over the last couple of years, I like the fact there's been a lot of fall prints and they've been symbolic of Accrington.
I totally agree. Yeah. Totally.
Are the socks really daft? Is that what you said?
I noticed that as well. You'd have to be turned up on match day, you know.
Daft socks.
So I hope you like it. I was hoping to have a sample here today for you to actually see the shirt, but in Italian ways it didn't arrive. So it will be. We'll have a sample in the shop when people come in and have a look, they can see it. So just quickly moving on. As you can see, we've managed to secure some of the main sponsors again. The stand sponsors have all renewed. I couldn't put everyone's logos on here. There's a huge amount of the sponsors that we've had from this year that have renewed. You will notice Talana is now has merged with Sundown, which is on the shirt, but because they couldn't announce the takeover before we had to get the shirts printed, they've had to live with Sundown on the back of the shirts. But Sundown is now under the brand of Talana. Where you sit below was a great sponsorship deal with Perry's on Accrington Road in Burnley. They provided the club with a brand new van. It's well required as well. The last one, it's on its last legs, is the last one. We'll have it outside, hopefully outside the ground at the next home match. We'll be getting some photographs and doing some marketing with it. But it's a great deal for them. It's absolutely free of charge to us, and it helps transport all the kit everything down to away days, and certainly helps move things around the ground. So as you can see, there's a lot of effort going in behind the scenes to make sure, you know, we stay, you know, the brand is loud and proud and on something that's, you know, in keeping with the brand.
That's exactly. You know, people with special needs call only to get stuff to. I can't read the line. I can't a bank card.
What we'll do is come back to questions answered after. I took some questions because it was in relation to the kit. I understand the question. I knew you were going to ask that one actually. Alright. So we're just going to go through some questions that were pre-submitted. I need my gigs for this. So we asked, obviously, to some people to send some questions in so we have time to think about them and give reputable answers to them. What is the present situation between the club, Highland Borough Council and the complainants with regards to the required soundproofing? What are the chances the venue will be reopened other than on match days? The truth of the matter is we're no further on, other than the fact we've had to look at different ways to soundproof this building. There's no doubt that the building does not contain the noise in the manner that we want it to. And any sort of event that has live, amplified and recorded music, the noise escapes and does cause a nuisance. I know there's a lot of things being said on social media and so on and so on, and you know, we don't agree with a lot of the things that Alan and Malcolm said and some of the promises that we believe that were made. However, we have to look forward. We're currently looking at a situation to replace the roof, not replace the roof, add to the roof going upwards, which will give it the soundproofing from an outside perspective, so we don't have to take a lot of the interior out. We're talking to consultants from Manchester University, from very different sound specialists, very different manufacturers. Restore Construction are very much part of that process. Structural engineers, laboratory tests, to make sure that once we get to a level of what is acceptable externally and acceptable internally so we can hold events, we will then start to push the button and put the pressure on to get the planning permission we need to be able to move this forward. The problem is legislation. If you imagine, I describe this as Hammond Borough Council dug a hole and pushed us all in it and then asked us how to get out. So we're all in this. No one wants to action on us, no one wants to execute on us, but we can't use it. So we're in a catch-22. So working very hard behind the scenes. I had a meeting with various people on, I think it was Wednesday, and it was very productive. At last we found some people who feel they can provide a solution, and I'm just waiting now for the early exchanges on that. So we can start to look at what costs may be associated to that. But we're not going to give up. So that's certainly something you can be assured of.
What are you soundproofing the only issue?
On here, not only, there's access and egress issues, but they are manageable under our management plan. We've also looked at ways on Colleys where you go up the ramp and into the building. If we built over the top of that, like you do when you come into this room, then obviously it gives an area where people can collect for taxi rides, etc. And we can also put a security strategy in so that people can remain indoors while the taxis come and then allowed out to take taxis. So there's lots of things we can do on that front, but those same people can't put a new roof on. So it is a point. The January window was a success with the signings of Matthews on board. So with Gross there for next season, the back three looks strong. Who is out of contract at the end of the season? Our negotiations underway with Sean and Seamus, as both have been valuable on and off the pitch. Who is actually handling the negotiations and player signings? The truth is, we all, as the directors are, and we have to take considerations from the managers. Because obviously Sean and Seamus have been amazing for the club. You know, they're deep-rooted into everything that Accrington is at this time and space. So, you know, we need to make sure we look after them. We also need to make sure that they're part of the plan as we move forward. You know, as we start to gain the philosophy of what's required for next year and how that's going to look, we'll start to see what players are required, which players we're going to let go, and which players we're going to bring in. And that's all part of next week's discussions, is to see where they are with that, and to put timescales involved into when we start to see what that looks like for next season. So the answer is next week we start the process, but we obviously, like many around the ground, are very respectful of people like Sean and Seamus, and we make sure that whatever happens we try and look after them in the best possible way. Season tickets last year were marked up Next Generation, and most of them didn't figure in the starting lineup. Do you know what the plans are for next season for O'Brien, Henderson and Martin? Again, it's part of the plan. I know, you know, we come up with things sometimes from a marketing spin and things like that, and I think it's very dangerous when we say certain things. There's no doubt that these three lads have talent, and there's no doubt we have other players right through the club that have talent. But I'll go back to what I said originally. Do they fit into the plan? If we take the names out of it, are they good enough to play the positions that we need them to do in the team that we are going to need to go forward and get to where we need to get to? This isn't, friends and family. This is a case of a football club that needs to succeed. And part of that plan is putting the right people in the right place. Now, I'm not the one to tell you whether any of these three will be the one that drives next season's challenge forward. But there are two very, very capable people that need to tell you what that looks like. So we'll start to see that over the next week or so, and those questions are very, very serious questions. Because if they're not, then who is? And if they are, why didn't they play this year? So there are some questions that need to be asked. But these are part of being, this time of year, when you start to build your strategy. So in answer to his questions, I don't know, because he needs to tell us, the managers need to tell us, and we need to agree that that's a reasonable strategy going forward, and we need to have confidence that once he's told us what that is, that it's going to achieve the outcomes we desire. Throughout the season, we see lots of international fans attend the WAM Stadium, such as the Norway lads. Is there any way the club can publicise or celebrate these visits so we can see how far the club reaches its global world of football? Could the club put photos of these site visits on the scoreboard along with other countries' flags, so fans in attendance can acknowledge them and maybe even chat with them? After all, this is a family club. The answer is yes. We're all about trying to work hard together. I think that social media has been good this year. We're working currently with Luke for someone to come in who has a bit more social media nous, who can, do this sort of thing along with our media team. Murray has spent many hours trolling around the ground chasing these people to try and get stories so we can put it out. Putting them on the board has been a tough thing because it doesn't work properly. And if we put a big person's picture up there, his head will be missing. So we need to get that repaired, and we need to get some decent technology on there to make sure we can do many things. I want to see people on there being live on the screen while we do things on the ground. I'd like to see there's a camera in the crowd and he's doing something exciting, you can see it on the screen. It needs to be that way. Technology now has moved on. That was fantastic when we first got it. If it weren't for the Supporters Trust, we wouldn't even have that. They managed to get us that, and it served its purpose really, really well. And like I said, we're really grateful for them to do that. But a lot of them need screen only has a 7-year life. And the software, that changes like the wind. So you look where we've gone in the last 7 years, technology-wise, it's not a surprise it's moved on. So the answer to his question is yes. Question from James Cheverton. Is he in?
That's me, yeah.
Hi, James. I noticed we've given less allocation to Tranmere and Carlisle away fans recently than we could potentially sell. I wonder the reason, e.g. police costs, issue with Corpus End and temporary terrace at the back. The reason we didn't give them tickets is policing issues and the subsequent costs of managing a club in the police's opinion behaves in a certain manner. So when we engaged with Bradford have an impeccable behaviour record, and the police are the people who tell us that they're happy for it to go ahead. Policing costs were significant. So when we house those in Bradford here with 2,400, we had no police costs, we had our standard stewarding, and there was no trouble. Tranmere would have cost us an extra 6,000 quid to have extra fans. If we'd gone any more than what they had, it would have cost them £6,000. And basically all we've been doing is paying for them to have fans in here. And given the current situation of where the team found itself, we didn't see that as a positive for the club in any manner. And then even more so, Carlisle had the same issue, and because it was a bank holiday, it would have cost us £13,000 for Carlisle to have it, and also the fact that we'd already pre-agreed that we weren't going to let Carlisle any more than 1,000. And believe me, how tough it was to keep them out. They were ringing, trying every way possible to get in. But we're not going to pay other clubs to come and watch football when we're in a precarious position. It's just not going on. Does that answer?
Yeah.
Has the club given consideration to flexi tickets between a season ticket and walk-on prices? E.g. buy 5 match day tickets in a season to get the 6 free, or they're focusing on keeping season ticket costs as low as possible? Well, it's the latter. It's to keep the season tickets as low as possible. My ambition for the club is to keep the tickets really low and increase the fan base. If we increase the fan base, we increase the revenue, it keeps affordability for everyone concerned. That's what I want to do. It's difficult, because if we have a crowd of 2,000 people with half-price tickets, we have to half-price the tickets for all the away fans as well, which means you have to double the crowd to make the same money. So, revenue-wise, a high percentage of our revenue comes from match day ticket sales. So, that's the reason why we tend to stay away from discounting. And I'll give you some examples in a second, also someone else's questions, of what that does to people when you start doing things like that. Is Jim Curtis in? Hi Jim. Why did we sell season tickets for the Liverpool match in the way we did, with unlimited amounts to season ticket holders? With approximately 1,000 season tickets and 4,700 before sponsored hospitality, etc. This left many supporters behind, friends and work colleagues of season ticket holders. The reason for that was 4 of us selling tickets, and one of them went on holiday, one of them went on holiday, so there were 3. But the way Liverpool give the tickets, they always sell them electronically. But we haven't got the capability to operate their system here. But when they allocated the tickets vertically. Now, I don't know about you and your families, but if you want to sit behind each other, that made it very difficult for us. So we had to go manually and take all the ticket pieces apart and put them horizontally so that we could sit families together. So we had to find time for that to take its course. So by pre-selling, it meant that we could sell tickets while we were actually getting the tickets organised into horizontal rows. And it's a lot of tickets, believe me. If you've ever seen it done, you need to, it buys most of my Christmas doing it, I'll give you that. So that's the reason why we did it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but if we were going to sell the tickets anyway, why would you say to a season ticket holder you can have 20 tickets when the chances are some people who are also season ticket holders or who come regular, not season out to someone who knows someone who knows someone. I know loads of Blackburn Rovers regular Blackburn Rovers fans, and there they were at Anfield. So I would say we had to do it.
Just in question, Jim, we have 2,200 supporters maximum that comes to the ground every week. We have 4,700 fans turned up to Liverpool. We had 1,800 turn up week after. So it's not like we went out and decided not to give it to Accrington Stanley fans. We have 3 people selling tickets. We have a minimal resource in a very difficult situation over the Christmas period.
So if it happened again, would you do the same thing again?
To be fair, I've never seen, and I have to say it me personally, because obviously I've never been in a ticket office before, but I've never seen tickets issued vertically.
Because
Guys, listen, this is for that, I understand, I'm trying to say that, like I just said, we have 4,700 people turned up for Liverpool, and 1,800 people turned up the week after. So we tried our very best with 3 people over a Christmas period, and actually one of the girls actually had to quit after Christmas through her mother, so we ended up with 2 of us doing a high percentage. It was a blooming good job we did, because no one would have got tickets if we carried on where we are. Because manually, we just didn't have resource. Every single ticket that went out had to have a stub ripped off. 4,200 of them. So we had to decide who were kids, who were adults, who were concessions. And then what happens is someone comes and says, after you've allocated 5 people in a row, and 4 people in a row, and 3 people, that 5 person says, now my auntie wants to come, can they sit with us? And this is the situation we have. So it's not just down to the fact we said 20 tickets. The big, we did one agreement that was of high value, and that was to the ultras, and we secured a singing section for them so that we get the noise that we needed out of the crowd. And Paul Baldwin organised all that. We could have done it. I understand the frustrations. I do. I really do. You know.
That is the answer then, fair comment, you know, that you've only got 4 people or 3 people, 2 people, 1, you know.
The thing is, we've got, a secretary, we've got myself, you think what I've got on my end, should I really be pulling stub ends on a ticket? It's,
okay, right.
yeah.
Transport and marvellous.
Right, well, this is a case for opinion and you're entitled.
It's a learning curve anymore for next time.
It is, of course it is. And if Liverpool had done them in the right fashion or give us an easy way of doing it, it would have worked easier. So, anyway, moving on to Michael Reid. Is Michael Reid in?
Well, Reid is out.
It's not a bad one, to be fair.
Considering only the performance of the first team last season, can you suggest reasons why I should feel optimistic, confident and encouraged enough to renew my family's 4-season tickets next year? I think that's a really valid question. I think, if you look at someone bringing a family, it's an expensive pastime, and, if you don't like what you see, and there's nothing there to encourage you to come again, that's a sad situation for us. So the answer is a new structure, a greater ambition, a measured approach, with outcomes on top of a plan. And we have to aspire to succeed, not just to survive. And that's a change in direction. And that's the answer. We're getting to Ash. Is John Doolan's role secure, and are they going to be here next season? Straight to the point. Yes, they are. And yes, they will be put into that structure and that plan. And we will be expecting greater things. I hope that answers that question. Is there a clear footballing philosophy that the club has or is building towards? Youth recruitment strategy. You've heard from Christoph and the facilities that we've got to play in. And yes, we are looking to build it, bring these players through. The philosophy on the field, it looks like the formation that we've gone with this year is the management way of playing, the wing backs. at the back three with the false nine. It looks like that's the way that the manager wants to play, but that will be brought, you know, it will be questioned and asked. So we'll have more about that once we can sit down as a unit together. You know, these guys, they're honest, they work hard, and you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what the plan is for next year. It was a brand new team this year, and it's not a brand new team next year. So it'll be interesting. I can't tell you about the contract, who's contracted, who's not, etc., until we have a sit down for next week. What are the club's realistic goals over the next 2-3 seasons? Promotion, consolidation, survival. It's the stepping stones, isn't it? It's first and foremost set the plan for mid-table. Make sure we consolidate and that we're not hanging on at the end of the season, you know, of a plan that really didn't exist. We want to make sure that we consolidate. If we get there, then we go again. We have to go forward. You know, you can't just sit there and say, well, let's consolidate again. We have to move forward. So the stepping stones are progressive. And to add to a squad and a team, hopefully, that will take us in the direction of the playoffs and promotion. That is the ambition, but there has to be a plan, and there has to be some effort going into ensuring it happens. Are there any plans to provide regular commercial updates, i.e. monthly? We're working on our communication at the club. It needs to improve. Again, it's a resource issue. Our media team is 2 at the moment, and Murray. And obviously Murray's got a business to run as well. And that is how our commercials work. A lot of the stuff you see from me is from me. And we try and get out as much as we can, but we need some structure to that as well. And I'm all ears to how you would like to see that. You know, I've heard quite a few people say we don't communicate, but there's a lot of platforms out there, a lot of different ways how you want that communication to work. You know, there's a lot of mixed opinions on what you want to see, whether it be football orientated stuff, as in videos, etc. Is it commercial stuff you want to see? You know, we have, I think it's 88 to 89,000 followers on our social media feed, but 973 on one of the others. So we have to make sure we start to improve our communication channels online. But yes, if we can, then the information is there, it's just how we get it out in the right format for you to see. Do the club plan on improving levels of communication in regards to players' absence from matchday squads? Players seem to go missing for weeks on end, never really being told what's up with them, i.e. suspensions, minor injuries, family bereavement, severe injury when not match fit. The easy answer to that is because the manager doesn't want people to know, so that we've only got a small squad compared to many clubs. And what he doesn't want people to know is that his centre-half's going on with an headache or something's happened at all. What we need them to do is turn up expecting that player to play. We've already had our media team have had to move their pre-match interview from Thursday to Friday because John doesn't want information getting out into the media about what team that he's putting out. I think he deserves the right to have that. I think if we know that one of the players has got an issue, it doesn't really serve any real purpose other than satisfying your query of why. It does the job if the opposition manager changes the team in competition. So that's the reason why we don't put it out there on his request. In answer to why a player might be missing for several weeks or even longer, I would presume it's usually down to form on the practice pitch or for other reasons, but Again, you know, these lads are working for a living. They're allowed a certain amount of privacy as well in certain things that happen. So, you know, we will update where we can. You know, if someone has a really bad injury, I'm sure you'll probably hear about it. Because he'd be, you know, probably in the game before. Are there any plans to review stadium operations layout? The queuing system behind the Clayton end is poor. It blocks the whole walkthrough. That's a football fan's nightmare wherever we go. I think every single fan zone has a queue that goes directly across the walkway. I've been a Rovers fan all my life, and I think I spent more time walking through them queues than actually getting a beer. It's difficult, because unless you actually build the bar sideways on and get the queues going long ways, it is really difficult. The trick to it is speed. We have to get quicker. And going back to the Cardona situation, it has improved the speed of how we serve. But unfortunately, unless you have more tills and you have more service staff, you never get the dues out fast enough. So it is a rock and hard place, and I've always said, in kiosk world and around fan zones, you need two things: one place to put it in and one place to put it out. And those both create queues. And we all hate queuing, don't we? So, you know, we can try and do what we can to get rid of the queues. But I do apologise for the inconvenience that it causes when, you know, it goes straight across the walkway. It may be something we can talk to the steward or a steward on stand to try and create a space between them, but it's something that happens at every stadium. A good question. If there's one thing the club could do better for fans, what would it be and what's stopping it? For me, it's making it more affordable for you all. But in order to do that, we have to create revenue in other areas and we have to increase the fan base. I want families coming on here, I want people to be able to afford to come on here. I want it to keep as it is as a family club. But we need to add the fans on, not discount the ones that are already here, because we go backwards if we do. So, from my point of view, that is the answer, to create an affordable football club where people come here for a good day out and feel like they haven't been fleeced. And they can enjoy it and bring their kids. Is that right with you, Ash? Do you go? Oh, it's not for kids, right? I think we'll have one more and then we'll go to questions and answers. Neil? Yeah. I know you're already. Season ticket prices, why has it taken so long? I just explained it, you know, we just waited to see what division we were in. Sorry? Well, yeah, because technically the club loses best part of nearly £1 million if we go down. It's catastrophic if we go down. If you look at Morecambe have just gone down, they just announced that
they've been living in luxury.
Well, we're trying to get ourselves as a sustainable football club, and we want to live within our means. And that means if anything ever happened in the future, we can look after our own. That is the ambition of the football club, as well as creating a competitive football team. And relegation would have been catastrophic, which, if you feel my ambition and my drive for success next year, that is because I don't want to go through this again. And season tickets will be coming. They'll be coming at a sensible price, if not the same price. And there'll be certain deals off the back of that. All the usual early bird and everything else, all the payment plans and everything that there will continue. So it's just that we pushed it down the road a little bit for obvious reasons, so we knew where we were. I have been looking at a new ticketing system which makes the whole thing simpler and gives better, longer payment plans, etc., etc. It's a system called Total Tickets. And a lot of the data we have for everybody is really poor. One of the things we've we haven't got a lot of is clean data. So there's a lot of people who will see where they've got names and addresses, but the telephone number will work, or the email address is off. So we need to get that bit sorted, and hopefully we'll get season tickets on the way. Blackburn Rovers offering cheap tickets and travel £8 only into Hyndman secondary schools and effectively stealing local support, yet I haven't seen any offers from Accrington sent out. Why aren't we tapping into these markets? Same with primary schools. The only offer I've seen is the shirt giveaway. We should be throwing free tickets out, especially on games where we know we're not going to have low attendances. What we do, the community trusts give out over 200 tickets. The thing is with the tickets, they don't come. We're going to schools, going to colleges, this is a regular occurrence to grassroots.
The first I've been child at Mount Pleasant, they've not had anything.
Well, we use the community trust that we would go, and if we miss it, we miss it. You know, we're not all
I see they go to training up Stone and places like that, they don't do anything else, training with the kids anywhere else. Bring it on to other schools.
Well, listen, if you bring the school, which schools you're talking about, to Martin, I'm pretty sure we'll do it. I've also taken on Rob Houseman full time, so that he can do an element of this from a club perspective as well. Just to put this into perspective, giving free tickets away and giving discounted tickets, Blackburn Rovers lost 20.9 million in the same year that they sold Adam Wharton. They owe £130 million to the Venkies. Morecambe lost 1.2 million and they owe £275,000 in interest by borrowing off their own.
I get that, it's still taking our guys away.
I know. But these are real figures, Neil. These are numbers that your football club you don't want to see, because these numbers ruin you, absolutely ruin you. And as much as I'd love to give everyone free tickets, I can't.
Taking 2 buses from.
I get it. I rang Hyndman Council. Nordad, who was at Hyndman Council, came in here, talked to us, and then took 2 bus loads from Great Harwood in our borough to Blackburn Rovers. I rang him the day after and asked him what he was playing at. Since then, he's done quite a lot. He's taken 2 schools onto the ground. He took, when the Bradford game was called off, so we had a full programme of games that they took, and also he's been involved in the iftar event. So we're actually pushing back against this sort of thing. I know Martin has a serious thing with football clubs encroaching into schools in our area, and he talks to the EFL regularly about that happening and how unfair it is. So we do address it and we do try to make it, but when we give things away for free, you have to be very careful.
Giving away things for free doesn't necessarily equal loss, though.
Pardon?
Giving things away for free doesn't necessarily equal loss.
Not always.
You're just trying to show an example.
Like discounted tickets and things like that. There's elements that tickets do fall into the wrong hands as well. So when we start giving things away, we've had people come in with tickets, and we had one situation where a woman came down to the ticket office with 20 of our vouchers that were supposed to go to kids, and she thought she could use them for her own. So it is hard work at times, and we are trying to do the best possible we can.
Much appreciate that, Warren.
Cheers, mate.
One thing I would say is that we've got half an empty stadium every single week. Give children's tickets free of charge to everybody with full paying adults.
He does.
It's not bad. It's not a bad.
I'll take you up on the challenge. I'll take you on this challenge. We'll give a ticket to every child if they bring a full paying adult.
Yeah.
Then you go and convince the adult to bring that child to the football match, because they won't pay, because we've done it.
Well, no, what I'm saying, Warren, is it's really simple on the selling side of it. Because when people ask me in a pub, how much is it to take a child on? I don't know, because I don't take a child on anymore. It's this price, it's that price. Do you know what I mean? Make it simple, it's free. You pay to get in, and your child goes free.
It does. The child is technically virtually nothing on a ticket price. But the adult price is significant for a parent who doesn't usually come to football. And I hear this all the time. I've had this conversation about where we actually live, and people have told me I'm talking rubbish. But if that child comes home with his brand new Accrington Stanley shirt and his brand new ticket, and his dad supports Burnley, who's just got promoted, getting him to come into Accrington to Oxford. And there's a lot of this type of thing.
That's what I'm saying.
But we have to build. We are trying to build through the community trust. We're trying to build through the academy. We're trying to build through all these areas. What if we just go throwing tickets out willy-nilly? You will end up with them in the wrong hands.
We're not doing it willy-nilly. We've now got a really good commercial team. Through you, through everybody else. And it's got to be directed. Not just willy-nilly, not just throwing them out.
There is a constructive approach that we're going through, working with the community trust. The first thing Martin said to me when I met him was we need to grow the fan base. And we need to grow the fan base in an economical way, and we have to make sure that we're generating the next generation of fans and not just one-off people who come for one-off games by getting something on the team. And we're trying our best to do that. If you look at the Clayton end, from where it was years ago, the amount of teenagers that are on that stand is a credit to where we were to where now. There's more people singing Accrington songs of teenage years than there was a time ago. When I was talking about Accrington Stanley years ago, so I knew Eric and all the rest of them, everyone said Accrington Stanley is full of old people. It isn't. There is a lot of youngsters come to games. There are a lot of families coming to games. We are slowly winning, but we're not going to fill 2,000 seats overnight. And I get your point, because I share your frustration. There's no worse than seeing 1,000 Tranmere fans in a big empty space. And it is frustrating, and we're all working towards that. And I hope in some of the things we say, you see that we're trying to put things in place. Never as the community trust and the other elements of the club working together to make sure we get this right. Anyway, I'd just like to open this to the floor now, because obviously I've spoken a lot and I want to hear a few questions. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to ask?
Yeah, me, right? Right, people with special need, just call only, not go with call only, if people got special need, it was a drink or something on the snack bar.
Yeah, I've to be fair, Steve, I've had this conversation, I think, before with you. We need to do something about this. I know I've taken Rob Houseman on full time now, so that he can focus on elements that we need to do and giving him time to do these sorts of things. He's very proactive in this area. So what I'll do is I'll take this up with him and we'll see what we can do to create an environment where people with special needs are looked after.
When I want something, I ask people, and I like to ask people, I can't get a car, I give them money, and I like to ask people to do that way.
I totally agree. And these are learning curves for us as well. I will say, we will look at it for you. And obviously there's many people, very like yourself, who suffer this same consequence. But we will look at it for you, I promise you. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. Might not be directed at what we're trying to achieve tonight, but it's why on a match day, when the players are coming out of the tunnel, do Accrington Stanley go on, as they're coming out on the right hand side, closer to the away fans, than coming where the home fans are on this side, coming on this side, whether they're walking out. And what's happening is, we're giving a standing ovation to them, and it's going mainly to the opposition.
To be fair.
So can it not be changed?
I'll ask the question. To be perfectly honest, I've never noticed. It may be historic.
We're giving, what we're doing, Warren, is we're giving a boost to the opposing team. They're thinking it's for them.
I totally agree. Listen, all I can say to you is that I'll ask the question. I've never noticed it myself, and obviously as they come out of the changing rooms, it might be that because the way that the away changing room is closer to that side, it may be that they come out. Well, I'll ask the question for you. Who are you going to ask? Who are you going to ask? I'll ask John. I just said to see what you've done now. Hello. So I'll ask John and just see what he says. Yeah, I'll ask him. I bet there's no rhyme or reason. I bet he doesn't even realise. I'll be perfectly
people that I speak to do.
Well, and now you've mentioned it, but this is why we have these questions, don't we? So I'll promise you, I'll take that up for you and I'll ask. And if you like, leave your name after, I'll come back to you. Anybody else? Yeah.
I've got a couple, so I'll just throw them out there. The first one is about following on from your discussion about policing, especially when it's like near capacity games. Is there any thoughts of selling hospitality within the balcony area away from the home fans, because sometimes it's a bit iffy when we get away fans coming out from hospitality. We've had it a few times.
It's something I noticed against Carlisle. What we're tending to see a lot of is, and we didn't realise it at first, because we offer such a good deal of hospitality, as soon as they can't get tickets, they go into hospitality, and if we end up with a number, it does create a problem. But in answer to that, this week, we made a decision that for the Chesterfield game, we would restrict the number of away supporters until the Wednesday before the game, so that we could see what we're going to get in home fans in relation to what away fans are being there. So we operate in the same manner as we would when we're checking tickets, so we don't end up with huge numbers in hospitality, so they're going out there. And there was one or two lads running up and down singing in Carlisle songs in front of everybody, and that's not acceptable really. We do have a code of conduct, but it's the first time I've really seen them, and it does create an atmosphere because you've got obviously Ackie fans there, we've got Ackie fans here, you've got.
Is that the first time?
It's hard because obviously it's back to front, isn't it? Ideally you'd have that down here and so on and so on, but unfortunately we have to be, available to all, otherwise selling half of everything, because it's just the way that the plan works. We usually in hospitality people behave. It's just the case in our hospitality, we're that close to the pitch and we're that close to our own fans that sometimes you're going to get the odd idiot. But in the main, I would say this year had a high percentage, a very high percentage have been well behaved and enjoyed hospitality without any issue. But on that, I wanted to do hospitality there, but if you'll notice, we have to put the blinds down in there. So we can do like we were on about doing, like have you done the burger and things in gallery yet? I wanted to do that on the balcony in there when we're sold out in here. More of a, like watch football on TVs and have a burger and fries and whatever in there. And do that type of hospitality, which is different to what's in here. Like a cheaper option, if you wish. And we did look at it. We just quite haven't got to the numbers yet to split the two. But I think we will. I think we will. But I have, in response to your fear, that is exactly what we're trying to do, is restrict the numbers.
The second one is, it was really good to hear about the different people under the umbrella, but the women have no representation here tonight. right, and I was a bit disappointed in that. I think the last time I heard we've got 270 plus females playing football
So that's right,
for us, and it's a massive marketing opportunity to me that's missed out on in a lot of occasions, even like promoting the women's game. We don't do it. I feel we don't do it enough. And also, can we look at the kit? If you're doing the online, that we have a bit more female, unisex kit to sell. Because even I noticed the new shirt has a collar on. Which
that's one design plan, that one that was on, that's just their coloured design, that's not made to fit or
yeah, but it's just got the collar on, isn't it? So it's not...
Yeah, but that's just showing the kit that we do. I mean, obviously when the range comes and all the rest of it, there'll be things like that. The reason why we have to be very careful in association with women's things, because they are a limited company. And they're on the service that we're doing, so we're doing everything we can to support them within reason. So I have constant conversations with Sammy. She's never been closer to the football club than she is now. She's consistently getting opportunities to play on the pitch. We are starting to do things with them that they weren't doing before, and it is growing. But it is a big unit now, is the women's football club, and I have to be honest and say we can't afford them at the moment because of what our revenues generate, and if your equal rights means they have to be treated the same way as the men as well. So the training facilities, the academy processes, and everything else that come with it, if we embrace it, it'd be a huge expense. So what we do is, under the service that we give them the best of everything we can. So, we give them the opportunity to use the brand, use the shirt, use, player matches on here. And, I know that Martin's been talking to about using the pitches down in the academy. It is growing, and it takes a little bit of time to see where we can unpick some of this as we move forward, but we are working hard to do that. And in relation to your merchandise, obviously, Sammy probably had a woman's version of a kit before we had the men's. As soon as I told her what colour, what she's like, Sammy. So, so there will be all sorts of things happening.
Yeah, it's about sometimes as a club for Accrington Stanley, we miss out on that female kit buying experience. And I mean, we used to have the training kit, which didn't have lots of advertising all over it that you'd wear outside. As a woman, you'd wear outside.
And that was the idea on Macron.
And it's gone.
Well, that was the idea on Macron.
Yeah.
So I need to work with Macron to try and get, and when we are talking, Sammy's already been talking to me about the kits and what have you, so they've already had the colours now, they understand what it's about, so we're already talking. Anybody else?
What's happening with the ground next door?
The ground next door, so the archaeologists are moving off. It's took 10 years for them to leave. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there's not been immediate decisions. I had a meeting a few weeks ago now, which is in regards to signing. That looks like the girls are moving up to King George's. I believe that contracts could be signed around September time. That, again, is only words at the moment. So, until these things happen, like I say, it's been 10 years. There's been a lot of promises over that 10 years. Then it will go, discussions, deeper considered, discussions with the club will happen. And obviously, we generally believe that the council would like the club to have the land. What that is in costs is, because of certain, we would like it freehold and instead of leasehold, because we'd like to own the land. There's certain caveats that come with that, because if you have it freehold, it loses its sports covenant or whatever you call it. So then you have to go in front of Secretary of State because it's got then a land value of over X amount of value. It's a complicated affair, but we're working through the red tape to see if we can get the land. But obviously at the moment that you have to be aware, Andy and the council aren't the best defence, and any decision on that land from a financial perspective will have to come the way around me. So, you know, we're in discussion. The council are being right with us on this, and I'm confident that, you know, what they're saying to us is true. You know, it's just perfect if we were to get hold of that land for the club. Does that answer your question? Anyone else? Right then, well, I'd like to just wrap things up then. So, obviously, I was going to say to yourselves, you know, I'll have a chat about some of the things you heard tonight. I'll reiterate the fact my door is always open. My telephone number is always available. I'm always interested in listening. I'm only going to learn from events like this and listening to the fans. If you see me out around the ground, don't be frightened of pulling me to one side and talking to me and telling me, you know, what you think. I don't mind if it's something that sometimes you shouldn't have, don't want to hear, but that's the only way I'm going to change things. There's an email address there if you do want to make a comment about this evening, or you want to tell us something that perhaps you didn't want to put your hand up about, and you know you're not comfortable doing that. Please put it on an email, because it's very important that you get your views across. And if we do this in the future, let's try and, if we can get the numbers up, and let's get more people involved in these discussions, because it's you guys with us that's going to improve this club for the better. You know, we'll try and improve things on the field for you guys, so that it's easier to watch and you don't go through the pain of this year or another. But it's again for what you want to hear, you know, in and around the ground. Let us know what your thoughts are. Right, so I'll just leave you with one last thing. This is something you might have seen me put on social media. And it's a statement that I genuinely believe in. And I've been a part of a cricket club all my life, Reed Cricket Club. And when you build something and you build it properly, you want to leave it in the best way you possibly can. When you start a journey, you want to start it and you want to make it better. And when you leave it, you want to be proud of it and leave it for them afterwards. So that statement says everything that I've done. So hopefully you'll buy into that. So thank you very much.